self-awareness is a constant thing that we want to be developing. We approach things differently. We start new tasks and activities and have new friends and experiences. And that brings new emotion, new thoughts, new challenges, new perspectives to us. We're constantly evolving and will continue to evolve our own levels of self-awareness.
Welcome to the Eat, Live and Move podcast by Miyagi, a space where we bring you the latest science-backed conversations, expert insights and practical tips relating to all things health and wellness. I'm Dr. Gina Cleo, your personal habit change expert.
And I'm Kate Krieg, your very own transformation coach, supporting you to transform your mindset and your whole life from the inside out.
Together, we're on a mission to help you improve your health and transform your habits and mindset so you can eat, live, and move better, one episode at a time without the fluff or the fads.
No one wants the fluff or fads.
No, we hate the fluff and the fads. Kate, we're going to talk about self-awareness today. And I know this is a really big and passionate topic for you, so I'm really excited to get into this with you. I thought we could start maybe if you can give us a definition, like what is self-awareness?
I think it's a great thing because, often a lot of my clients believe that they're self-aware. They feel like, no, I'm self-aware. I rate myself real high. Like I'm a 9 or a 10 because I'm aware of how emotional I am. I'm aware of how overwhelming my thought patterns are. So a lot of people, I just want to start by prefacing this as saying a lot of people believe that they're self-aware, where there is a body of research that says only about 10 to 15% of people are actually, by definition, which we're about to explore, are actually self-aware.
Oh my gosh. Okay. That's blown my mind and made me think maybe I'm not as self-aware as I thought. Like, am I likely to be in the 10%? I don't know.
I believe that self-awareness is a constant thing that we want to be developing because we all have things that happen to us. We're triggered by new and different things. We approach things differently. We start new tasks and activities and have new friends and experiences. And that brings new emotion, new thoughts, new challenges, new perspectives to us. So I feel like we're constantly evolving and will continue to evolve our own levels of self-awareness. So don't worry.
True.
Don't worry.
True.
Don't worry.
Okay, so what does it actually mean?
Okay, so self-awareness is the ability to focus on yourself and how your actions, thoughts, and emotions do or don't align with your internal standards. And Oxford say that self-awareness is defined as the conscious knowledge of one's own character, feelings, motives, and desires.
Okay. So I really so the first definition that you said is that, the ability to focus on yourself, your actions, thoughts, or emotions, and whether they do or don't align with your internal standards. Are we talking about cognitive dissonance here? Is that what that is?
I believe a lot of this is about absolutely whether or not you're acting in alignment with who you truly aspire to be.
Or with your values.
With your values, absolutely. And so many people don't know what their values are, or they go through a values exercise where they pick a bunch of names. They go, oh, yeah, I like that about myself, or maybe that could be me. And they wear it as a bit of a badge and haven't really thought, well, actually, is this under scrutiny? Is this absolutely how I would respond? Is this 100% a value of mine? And what does this all require? Reflection.
Yeah.
Self-awareness.
Yes. Okay, self-awareness, of course. So just to backtrack really quickly, so discrepancy, having that internal discrepancy is when we're acting outside of our value system and it feels icky. It's really strange to do something that we don't actually align with in terms of our internal standards. And although we do it all the time, it doesn't feel very good and it's not sustainable. And I guess it's having the awareness of that, isn't it?
The feeling thing. Oh my gosh, it's so powerful. It's so powerful. And that's exactly what it says here. It's the emotional state. Are these emotions in alignment? And this is one of the things I encourage a lot of people to think about is, what are the things that lift you up and light you up, that give you this positive emotion, that evoke this sense of awe or gratitude or the positive feelings?
Yeah.
Instead of the icky, you said icky.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, I already have a story to share about this. Like,
This is so good.
oh, okay, are you ready? Because this is the
Yes.
idea. I think a lot of us think we're self-aware. And I think even if you're listening to this podcast, you obviously have an interest in self-awareness. So, okay, so I was traveling through this town. I'm not going to say where it was, but I was traveling through it and I went to the supermarket. Now, I'm one of those people that if I'm self-checking out at the supermarket, every single thing goes through. Like I am like pedantic with it. I am very honest person. I have very high standards when it comes to transparency and like, you know me, right?
100%.
And I was in this town and in this particular supermarket, it was just like almost like a free-for-all. Like people were just packing backpacks full of clothes from Coles or Woolworths was one of them. And they were just walking straight out of the shop. And the people working there weren't stopping them because, well, they're not security and as if you're going to get in a fight with someone, right? So, and people were they were self-checking out and only like a third of things were getting scanned through. And I'm here at the self-checkout and I'm up to like $100, right? And here's me, self-righteous Gina, being like, I would never steal anything. Like I am this like honest, noble person. And then I had a capsicum and it was a red capsicum. And I made a decision in that time to put it through as a green capsicum because it was $2 cheaper per kilogram. But my thought when I was horrified with myself. When I got in the car, I said to my husband, I was like, you won't believe what I just did. I went through this like existential crisis of an identity shift where here I am being like, I am this person and these are my values and I can't believe how many people are stealing, like, oh my goodness. And I was influenced by the environment that I was in that normalized the idea of stealing. Although I didn't steal, I still paid for the capsicum, just not the whole red capsicum.
Just 10 cents cheaper.
Yeah, it was about 10 cents cheaper, that's right. But I also remember thinking, I've been in this town for all of 2 hours. Imagine if I lived here. You know, I think I'm this person, but maybe I'm actually only this person because of where I live and my environment and the culture that's societally, you know, appropriate and normal and
normalizes that behavior.
Exactly. And it blew my mind. It actually made me think, I don't know if this is going off topic, but it made me think of the Holocaust. And you know how we think like, how can people do this? And but I've read so much psychology about what was happening in people's minds and how their environment influenced their behavior, and they felt entirely justified in what they were doing, and not inherently in an evil way. It was just what was culturally normal and acceptable. And my mind was like, no, you'd have to be super evil like to be able to inflict that much pain on someone. But in that moment, when I put through the capsicum as a green capsicum, not a red capsicum, I thought it only took 2 hours for me to be influenced in this way.
Yeah.
You know, how much more could I be influenced in an environment that normalizes anything?
And you think about leading everything right back to your childhood and how you have been exposed to conditions, environments, normalizing certain behaviors, pressures, expectations, all of those things have created our current reality, which is why I say feelings, that feeling you had that I felt a bit icky, it's probably silenced for many people, but there's something there. And it's really absolutely dialing into, well, hang on, what feels okay and what doesn't quite feel okay? And it could be very silent, could be very soul sort of whispers, but that's a sign that there is some form of incongruency, misalignment.
Or how do we do that? Like for me, the awareness of that discomfort for me, you know, it's loud and clear for me.
Yeah.
And even if it's not loud and clear, it sort of buzzes in the back of my head and I can't get rid of it. Probably because I'm a real reflector. Like I'm an external reflector. I sort of talk about all the things. So but for someone who you're saying like has just got that silent whisper, and your advice there was to dial in, like how does one do that?
I feel like the first step and one of the easiest steps is to create some consciousness in your existence. We spend so much of our existence, I mean, as a habit expert, you know the statistics around autopilot.
Yeah. Yep. Up to 70% of everything we do, think and believe is automatic. and
Automatic.
subconscious.
And subconscious. And that's the thing.
Mm.
It's beneath the surface. It's
Mhm.
beneath the surface of our awareness. It doesn't mean we can't ever access it,
Yeah,
but
okay.
it means we need to be able to create the space to access it. And the way to do that, I'm going to open up the lines to you about, because you are the expert on habit change and neuroscience. And I often talk about how we have the two brain systems, our limbic system, which is the habitual, automatic, and then you've got the prefrontal cortex. Please, can you share some information about the two systems? Because that's what I want to talk about.
Yeah, so all our behavior is governed by two systems. And we've got, just like you've mentioned, it's the basal ganglia, which is our automatic system. This is non-intentional. It's actually impulsive, it's spontaneous, it's sporadic, it's pleasure-seeking.
Easy.
It's efficient, it's easy. It is not reflective, and it's effortless. It happens automatically. It's kind of like when you sit in the car and you put your seatbelt on, it happens automatically. Or the process of tying your shoelace, you do it without really thinking about. So that's the basal ganglia, or the habitual impulsive system. The other system is your reflective system, and that sits in your prefrontal cortex, which is where your logical decision-making processes happen. This system is deliberate, it's effortful, it's intentional, it's calculated. It will sort of think about what's happened in the past and decide what to do in the future based on those outcomes. And it's a slower system. You know, it's the decisions that you intentionally make. Like, how do I get from A to B? Or what should I cook for dinner tonight? Or why did that feel a bit icky? So that's that reflective prefrontal cortex system. I see what you just did there, Kate. It's like circled back to the how do we do this? Okay, but how do we actually, so we spend 70% of the time in that basal ganglia, in the rush, the not reflective part, the very impulsive part of our brain. To be more in our prefrontal cortex, we have to be quite intentional about that. So, how do you practically, day to day, go about doing that?
Okay, awesome. Well done. Love all this. Great. It's like we are setting each other up.
I know. I'm like, I don't know where this is going, but I think I do. This is great.
I feel like we're going somewhere here. So the one thing that I find so incredibly valuable is, throughout moments in my day, is to set a little alarm in my phone and just reflect on what's just happened and how I feel. That's the first one. It's a really nice and easy one.
And when you say what's just happened, that could be any time of day. Like when you set that alarm, you don't know what's just happened.
No.
Oh, so it could be anything. So it could be, I just made a coffee.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's like, oh, hang on. Oh, yeah, I just made a coffee, or I had an interaction with my partner, and actually I did feel a bit icky with that. Mm-hmm. That's interesting. What just happened and what am I feeling? Because all we're trying to do is strengthen the self-reflective muscle to become more self-aware in the moment.
Yes. Okay. How
eventually
often do you do this? Yes.
I often say to my clients to do it 2 times a day, 10 o'clock and 2 o'clock for some reason.
Okay. And how long do you sit in reflection time for?
It could even be 30 seconds.
Do you write it down, or is it just like a silent thought in your head?
I encourage all my clients to write stuff down. And the reason for that is we often fall into the trap of ruminating thinking.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Like, oh, my husband looked at me like this, and we've got these automatic negative thoughts that come in, and we just spiral ourselves out of control. And then we're actually feeling worse than what we were before, and we've lost our way, instead of just saying, what just happened? What am I feeling? What do I need?
Okay. All right. So just 2 alarms a day, and it just brings you back into that reflective mindset. And the idea is to strengthen the muscle, because of course, that's exactly how it works. The more time we spend in intentional reflection, the more fluent it feels, and the easier it becomes. This is why meditation is so powerful. It's
absolutely.
That centeredness, present moment. I suck at meditation, but it's something that I've been working so much on. And I find incorporating breath work really helps me, because I have to be more present and aware with that.
Well, that was my second one. Mindful breath, taking 3 deep breaths. And I often like the idea of taking 3 deep breaths before you start a new task.
Yes,
so,
I love this.
So you can have that conscious attention to the present moment. And some people like to expand on that about, what is my intention right now? How do I intend to interact with this person? What outcome am I striving to achieve? So you can start to bring in reflective thoughts and create intentions for how you want to operate. So really start to create some alignment. When you were talking about deliberate with the prefrontal cortex, there's effort, but the effort doesn't have to be extreme. It can just be in mini moments throughout your day. So 3 breaths. I just remember one of my clients said to me, Kate, I can't tell you how much 3 breaths has enabled me to slow down my eating, to stop my just autopilots, to stop just going and drinking and eating all the things, or acting irrationally, or acting in a way that doesn't make me feel good. It makes me feel icky. So it's that 3 deep breaths to engage your parasympathetic nervous system and calm yourself down and be able to be mindful and create that conscious attention.
So powerful, isn't it? I actually went to a wedding where the bride is a yoga instructor, and she got everyone to do 3 deep breaths before the ceremony had started. And it was awesome. We were all like, whoa, we are so present here. Because it was on the beach, and we're sort of scrambling to get there and making sure we're sitting on the right side. And you know what it's like you kind of, there's all this sort of buzz going on. But when she got us all to do this collective 3 deep breaths, we were all just here, now, present. And it was beautiful. And now I do it at the start of my corporate presentations.
There you
I
go.
get everyone in the room to just have 3 deep breaths, and then I just start.
So good. So good. Bring people back to the present moment. Bring them here intentionally. Focus on the content, because we're here to create an impact.
Yeah.
How do
and
we
so
help
that
people?
really then goes around and helps with our own self-awareness.
Correct.
Okay.
I've got one more.
So why is, oh yeah. Oh, amazing. I love 3 tips.
I've got 3 tips. This one has really helped me, and you have said it before when you were talking about the prefrontal cortex. It's the rushingness. You know how we all rush around? We rush from task to task and doing. And I gotta, often so many people say to me, I'm acting out of alignment with my children because I'm yelling at them in the mornings to hurry up so that I can hurry up, so that I can hurry up, so that I can hurry up, and rushing, stress, rush. I encourage everyone to just try and slow down just a smidge. Instead of trying to pack your lunches really fast, just slow down the pace. Just mindfully put the capsicum and the cucumbers into the lunch boxes. You're getting a glimpse of what my children eat for lunch.
I struggle with this so much, Kate. You know me. I mean, you at 3 minutes past the time that you and I were meant to meet today, I was like, where's Kate? Mm-hmm. Where is she? And then I messaged you twice, and then I called you. And as I'm calling you, I'm like, Gina, relax. Like, we've got 2 hours blocked away. It's fine. But my other part of me is like, I have a whole list of tasks to do today. And if she's not ready, I'm going to go do something else, and I'll come back in the meantime. And I want to slow the rush down. But how do we actually practically do that? Because I know a lot of people really struggle with this.
It's a practice, isn't it? It's a practice like everything. Patience, persistence.
There's no like pill or something, Kate? Or there probably is, but it's probably not the right thing for it.
Can you imagine? Oh, Gina comes on board like late to all the meetings, completely. Oh, what else?
Zonked out. Hey guys, I'd be like, become a stoner or something.
Yeah, no, I was thinking that. No,
don't do drugs, people.
Key message. Might need to put a disclaimer at the front or the back of this podcast. But no, I know the feeling, and listen to what happened. Where is Kate? Are we still going to be able to do this? I've got such a big long list, and blah 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 blah. And it was 3 minutes. Context. It was 3 minutes. Like I've got German heritage. Hey, like I hate being late. And so I know exactly what you meant. I'm like the most punctual, except for today with a 3-minute delay.
Yeah, I was like, this is not like her. Where is she?
Where is she? She must be sick. And the catastrophizing thoughts and all of the things that come into it, right? So it is about quietening the mind and saying, I used to say to myself, Kate, it's okay. It's going to be an extra 30 seconds. It's fine. It's fine. Because I do want to improve my life. I do want to engage with the present moment. I have got this story. I don't know if I shared this with you before, but the moment I decided to become mindful, conscious, I was in France, in Nice. And so this was going back 15 years ago, let's say. And my husband and I, we were on top of, so you can basically walk up this mountain and overlook the whole of Nice. And in this moment, there was just the most incredible thing I was seeing with my eyes. And I remember saying to myself, Kate, you need to remember this, because you seem to always forget things, not knowing why at the time.
Yeah.
You need to remember this. And so what I did is I stood there and I engaged every single one of my senses while being still and silent and stationary. And I remember engaging my eyes and asking myself, well, what can I see on the water? And the water was this beautiful icy pole blue, and it was sparkling like it was filled with, because of the sun was making it spark, it was like it was filled with stars. And I remember just embellishing, going, oh my goodness, wow, look at that. And I remember hearing these kids running behind me and then these birds flapping in the trees around. I remember smelling someone's lemon sorbet next to me. No joke. It was just, I engaged every single one of my senses. And I remember that moment so vividly. And this is what, I was up there for probably a few minutes. You know, it wasn't like I was there for half an hour, but it felt like I spent half a day there.
Wow.
All because I slowed down and I was intentional and I engaged my senses in a way that helped me be present. And so much so that the other day I'm so persistent at practicing this slowing down that the other day I was making lunches in a rush. And my daughter Sienna said, Mummy, why are you doing all that? And I said, doing what? She goes, why are you rushing like that? And I just turned to her and I said, thank you for showing me this. I don't want to be rushing. What's an extra couple of minutes? What does it matter? I want to be in the moment.
Like taking a step back and being like, in the bigger picture of things, this 3 minutes doesn't matter.
Yes.
It's better off to just be here and slow down and present than rush through it and get one more task done in the day. Is that what motivates you to do it?
For me, absolutely. I don't want to rush through my life and say, I've just got this scroll of things that I did and yay me. I want to be, and I was present and I got to savor the moment and I got to appreciate those quiet 3 minutes by taking a few deep breaths and doing something to center myself and being intentional with the next moment, like seeing it as a gift.
Yeah. That's so beautiful. Do you know, I had a very similar experience just recently. So, you know, I was in Africa a couple of weeks ago and Mitch and I went to Victoria Falls in Zimbabwe. And, you know, you pay entry and in Victoria Falls, if you haven't been, you go around the falls and there's all these different lookouts. There's probably like, I don't know, maybe 20 of them or something. And Mitch loves nature and so do I, but he really loves nature and he was adamant to go through every single one of these lookouts, whereas I was like, all right, so the falls, cool, like let's go now and go get some food. But he wanted to go through every single one. And then we got to one which was absolutely spectacular. I mean, on this particular day, the falls it had been raining the week before, so they were just roaring. And the smoke, like the water puff was coming back up. It was creating a rainbow. And when you looked at other people around, they were sort of misty and silhouetted. And the whole thing was this incredibly romantic, beautiful moment. Mitch sat on a rock and he's like, let's just sit here and watch it. And I'm thinking, my initial thought was, watch what, babe? We've seen it. Like, we're here. We've seen it. Tick, let's go. Whereas he sat there, we probably sat for at least half an hour. And the longer we sat, the more beautiful it came and the more things we started to notice. And he would point out, you know, the plants that grew between the waterfalls and the mist that dances in the wind and all the things that my rushed brain would normally miss. And I actually wrote him a love letter after this because it was such an incredible experience. I just said to him, thank you for reminding me to slow down and be present. And I listed all the things that I noticed as a result of that half an hour that we sat there. And as we were walking out, he was like, I could have sat there all day, but we had to leave because the park was closing. And he's like, I could have sat there all day. And I remember thinking, I want to get to a level where that level of presence is attractive to me and not focusing on the list of things that I wanted to do. You know, it's all this shopping I wanted to do and all this food I wanted to go try. And I was like, what's next? What's next? And just to be still was probably one of the highlights of my 3-week trip there.
Yeah. Instead of the rushing and the doing and the
Yeah.
lists. And there's a lot of research around how presence, like a mindful attention to the present moment. I'd love to know if you know of any specific studies, but mindful attention to the present moment, it actually enables productivity.
Yeah. Well, yes, of course. Because your brain is here now. And the idea of multitasking is a myth. We actually can't multitask. Our brain just quickly shifts between tasks, which becomes very exhausting for our brain. So when we're in a particular situation and now we're thinking about the next one or the one before or something else, we're task shifting and we're not being present. So then we're not engaging the full potential of our brain to be focusing on the task at hand.
I mean, it's interesting, isn't it? You know, it's absolutely fascinating. And this is what it is. It's about this awareness of what's influencing us and making a decision, a conscious decision. And thankfully, we have partners that ground us and enable us to be in the present moment. But sometimes we're not influenced by people in a way that enables us or is in alignment with who we want to be. And that's why this consciousness, this reflection on our days, this deep breathing before tasks, and this slowing down creates the spaciousness we need to check in with ourselves to see if we're feeling icky or not. And you celebrated this moment where you spent half an hour and now it's the highlight of your trip. And the connection that you built, you wrote a love letter after that because of that moment. There was no real significant interaction between you, but it's what your environment enabled you to experience. And we keep coming back to our environment. And I feel like we would probably do it a disservice if we tried to deep dive into how our environment influence us in the different ways that it can. I think we need to do a part 2, of this.
Probably, definitely, because that's huge.
It's huge. It's huge. Yeah. If we can spend this time on influencing and encouraging people to spend this time just to be self-aware and how to do it, then we've got a big list of things that we could help them reflect on environmentally, a bit like you in the supermarket, you know, and owing them 10 cents. Maybe it's 5 cents you owe them.
I'll probably send it to them in a letter, like an anonymous envelope.
So imagine you doing that.
I'll write the time and date that I took the capsicum.
Sorry.
Be like, put it through as the wrong color.
And your
sorry.
Apology letter.
Like, consciousness has been killing me for years since. Okay. I'm the kind of person who will only make changes in my life if someone can convince me, like through evidence, that it's going to be beneficial for my life. The thing is, change is hard, right? We've got enough on our plates. We will only make a change if we see a significant value in to our life to make that change. So we've talked a lot about the beauty of self-awareness, how to do it. You've given us 3 beautiful tips, Kate. Why is it so important?
Yeah. I mean, I want to ask you this question. What did you enjoy about spending those moments overlooking the waterfall? How did that benefit you?
Yeah, it was noticing. It was the curiosity that it created in me. It was the beauty I appreciated that I wouldn't have appreciated. It's how still everything was. And it was incredible. I can't even put it in words. It was just majestic.
Yeah. Oh, I can so feel it, hey. And I also want to now bring you back to your science brain that talks about neurons that fire together, wire together, and about how positive emotion, when you wrap something in an emotion, you start to hardwire a specific mindset, if you like.
Mm-hmm.
And so now what we're doing is we're positively influencing your brain for the better.
Okay. So it's almost like injecting a bit of enjoyment into the tasks.
So the first thing is it absolutely has so many positive benefits. And some of it is creating, you know, we've got this negativity bias, negativity bias, which is constantly scanning for threats and dangers and doing the next thing because we've got a big task, we've got to get everything done. And all of a sudden we go, I'm not where I want to be. I'm not really who I want to be. And I don't know why. And we're saying, well, it's your autopilot. It's because you've got this big, long task. So slow down. And in that slowing down, you're going to be able to savor the moment and hardwire a more optimistic happiness perspective. And you're going to be able to engage in moments that you weren't before. And you're going to be able to be the mother, because I'm thinking about intentional effort. So I want to be the mother that I want to be. I want to be the wife that I'm, aspire to be. It helps me create intentional choices of who I want to be. So that's why I asked you, how did it go for you? Did it feel icky? Was it good? And you told me
it was amazing. It felt connected. And as I connected to my surroundings, I had a then greater connection to myself.
Hello words.
Light bulb moment. Self-awareness. Okay, magic.
It's so magic.
That was incredible how you got me back to this. Okay, wow. Thank you.
Well, I just want to say thank you to you because your examples are so valuable and you just came up with them so easily, and I feel like they're so digestible. And there was this part that I'm thinking about before, which is, why. It's all about why. And that self-connection is critical, because when we connect to who we are, what we care about, what feels good, we can start the process of rewiring and making through intentional choices. So that's the bit that I wanted to emphasize as well.
Do you think that self-awareness isn't our default because of the rush? Is that what we're putting it down to as the thing that gets in our way?
I feel there's a whole bunch of things. I think majority, you said 70% of everything we do is habitual and automatic.
Right. Yeah. Okay.
We know that we are a product of our environment, our conditioning, our societal norms, the expectations, the things that we've been exposed to. So it's our default mode.
Yeah. Okay. Got you. When I went through a very traumatic experience several years ago, and one of the exercises that my psychologist had me doing is sitting with my discomfort. And that was so uncomfortable. Obviously, it's in the word, sitting with the discomfort, rather than trying to avoid it with distractions, whether it was my phone or whatever, right? I had to actually sit and be present with it and be highly aware of it. But what that also helped me to do is become aware of the things that triggered my discomfort. What are the things that triggered my anxieties and my trauma response? And what are the interactions or the tones of voices or the smells that would make me feel icky? And then how do I then find my way out of that? And I think that's why I feel like I have more of a default towards self-awareness. I had to sit in this space so long and several times a day, and it was so uncomfortable. But it was also one of the best things that I ever had to do for my mental health and for my mind. And I'm very aware now because of going through the consistent practice of doing it.
And I feel like a lot of people are so caught up in this autopilot loop that they're not realizing that there is an opportunity for them to slow down and to break the patterns. And you mentioned the familiarity. And I often liken the familiar patterns that we engage in, because we know we can expect it. We know what's going to happen. I know that even if I have an abusive partner, which I don't, but if I did have an abusive partner, they're abusive, I kind of know, I feel like I can manage them. I feel like I've got some form of control over them because I kind of know about it. So it's familiar. It's that pattern that we get into. And I often think about it as though where the discomfort for me, what it would feel like, I've tried to think how can I tangibly explain what it feels like to be growing and developing and getting out of that familiarity zone?
Yeah.
And for me, it's like I go to a foreign country and don't know the language. I don't have a map, and suddenly I need to find a hotel.
Oh gosh, that makes me anxious.
It does. But I know that there's going to be a hotel there. I guess I probably could say that I do know there's some knowns.
Yeah.
And I know that I'm going to be able to find safety. I know that it's right there, but I still need to be in the discomfort of trying to figure out a few things.
Yeah. Yeah. So then it becomes very intentional, mindful, present moment.
Correct. That's exactly right. And so I think a lot of people feel like change is really hard and really overwhelming. And certainly with what you were exposed to yourself, going through trauma and being exposed to it and having to sit with it, there was so much discomfort in that. And I think sometimes all we're trying to do is just nudge a little bit further, And yes, there's some discomfort, but mostly we're just trying to nudge further. It's not huge steps that completely take us into a tailspin. And this is why we start with self-awareness, is to create some mindful attention to what's serving me, what's not serving me so much, what's triggering me, what's making me feel really good. And so we can start to assess.
Yeah, so good. I teach communication skills to med students. And one of the things, a few of the students might get like quite anxious in a consultation with a patient. It's a pretty scary thing to do for the first time. And what I get them to do, and I learned this from friends of mine who are amazing psychologists, is to notice 5 things. And it's just 5 things around the room to bring you back to the present. So when their mind starts racing with, say they're in an exam situation, they're like, what do I say next? And what? Notice 5 things. And it's literally like the exit sign, the feel of my clothes on my body. It's the pen that's on the ground, like 5 things, and it brings you back to here.
Yeah.
And it works amazingly with, I've seen it externally, and I've also done it with myself, with my own presence. I just say, what's my body doing? How's my stomach? When I'd be anxious, I'd be like, I've got sweaty palms, my stomach's turning, my heart rate's a bit higher. That's interesting. And I'd sit with the feeling, and then it dissipates.
Absolutely. And I think a lot of people avoid the feeling.
Yeah, because we want to avoid pleasure, and like we seek pleasure and avoid pain. That's what we do, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But I think sometimes, and certainly what the research shows, like you said, when you sit with that discomfort, hang on a minute, where am I feeling? I often get my clients to locate on their body where they're feeling the tension or whatever feeling it is the most. And it's often the chest or the stomach. And so when they do that and they can sit with it and be curious, what is that? It's through that discomfort. That's kind of like the portal to achieving comfort.
Yes.
Because it doesn't overcome you.
Yeah. But you just have to go through it, right? And trust the process.
Absolutely. Trust the process instead of avoiding, I'm going to pretend I don't have that scary thought or that thing happening, or I'm going to pretend that I'm just going to keep going. I'm 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 going to keep going. But I've missed the fact that all these things happened back here that actually didn't make me feel very good. And I haven't thought about what they were. I haven't thought about how I could do things differently. I haven't thought about how I could choose to respond. I've just kept going and kept going and kept going and kept going and kept going.
Yeah. Okay. And it's really about slow down, be present. That's really like the overarching message that we have today, isn't it?
Yeah. And again, I know for someone like you, and certainly like me, we like to get stuff done and we powwow and we're high achievers. It doesn't mean slowing down to the point where we're like operating at snail's pace. It's nothing like that. It's just like a few deep breaths. It's consciously connecting to your intention in the next moment. It's not rushing through absolutely everything. It's assessing at that waterfall, could I be here in this moment versus go and do the tasks? Could I be okay with that?
Oh, I love that. I love that you said this, because sometimes I like rushing.
Yeah.
But a lot of the time I don't need to. So it's really nice to have that differentiation. We don't need to be slow. I can still listen to podcasts at 1.5 speed.
Yes, it's essential.
Okay, good. I'm glad. Otherwise my brain goes like la, 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 la.
Yes, totally. But it's a conscious choice. Exactly.
Yes.
It comes back to, am I okay to be doing this right now?
Yeah. Well, I feel after today's chat, I feel really motivated to want to take that more seriously and, do a lot more of that throughout the day. And I really love that you're like, it could just be 3 deep breaths, or it could be just a moment of mindfulness. It doesn't have to be this like identity, like it doesn't have to be an overhaul. It's just bits that you interject into your life. So
absolutely.
Love it. Thank you, Kate.
Oh,
Kate, we've got a question from Charlie, one of our members. It's a question for you. And it says, Kate, you're a mindset coach. How has adopting a growth mindset positively impacted your life? Gosh, that's a big question.
That's a big question. How long have we got? Oh, Charlie, thank you.
Give an overarching summary.
Yes. Okay. I guess I've always understood that I have the ability to change. So I think that's the one thing that I have always had. But the one thing that I feel differently about this whole growth versus fixed mindset is I believe that I had to rely on other people or other things in order for me to achieve my goals.
Okay.
When I realized that I had the power to change, like I had it. It was my responsibility. It was me who had the insights, the knowledge, the skills, the capabilities, everything I needed to succeed, when I realized that I was able to make that change by myself and not rely on other things, programs, etc., that's where the complete game changed.
Love that. And how would you say, like, what would you say were the biggest things that changed in your life?
I started to develop more awareness of what were the things that were holding me back. I started to get really intimate with myself. You mentioned self-connection. You know, that's my brand. My other podcast is called Deeply Connected to self, deeply connect to others, deeply connect to the present moment, deeply connect to your desires. And so, you know, that's how I approached this knowledge that I can change based on I don't need more. I don't need to get anywhere. I don't need to do anything specifically. I can change now.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think that's what one thing we do with a slight change on the fixed versus growth mindset kind of implies that you've got it or you don't.
Mm-hmm.
You've got a fixed mindset or you've got a growth mindset. And what I'm wanting to say is I had a growth mindset. I just felt that I wasn't empowered enough to change myself, that I needed to do. Like this particular journey was my weight loss journey. This was the moment, and I thought I needed to do another diet or another exercise challenge or something external to me, when all of a sudden I went, Kate, you have the power. You are a human being with a mind. Like, you have the power. You have the ability to change. So it's flipping that sort of concept and really embodying that I don't need to wait. I don't need to wait until I have something else. I've got the ability now.
Yeah, it does. That's really what you teach in the Miyagi programs, isn't it?
Yeah,
it's
absolutely.
Empowering people to have, like, to find their own power.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. From within. And I say this to all my clients, is you have the ability. We all are born with an ability. You know, most of us have the ability right now to make change. And so that's my response, Charlie.
So good. Thank you so much. Well, that brings us to the end of this week's episode on Eat, Live and Move with Miyagi. Whatever platform you're listening to today, please hit subscribe. And we look forward to having more conversations next week with myself, Dr. Gina Cleo, and it'll be Kate Krieg or Dr. Ross Walker. We will see. See you then.
Mix it up. Thanks.